Hey there, I'm Ashley, and this is New Day with Ashley. If you're looking for inspiration to make a difference and create lasting impact, then you're in the right place. Get ready to be encouraged by the stories of my guests who have taken risks, overcome challenges, and created opportunities. It's time to make the most of your new day. My guest today is quite the accomplished businessman and leader. Jim Poolman, managing partner of Slainte Holdings, has been highly involved in the development of many businesses that have contributed to the economic growth in North Dakota. Jim has a passion and vision for business and has held many different roles, from banker to politician, entrepreneur, consultant, and investor. Now, finding those partners too.
Yeah.
How was that? Was that an organic thing?
Yep. So when we started and we built 3 of them with the same partners. Mm-hmm. And then about 2.5 years ago, my partners decided they wanted to move on and do something else. And so I bought them out and brought in 2 new partners.
Okay.
And it's awesome because, I guess part of my life advice would be find the right people to surround yourself with.
Sure.
People that you can trust and that also trust you. Each one of us has our own strengths to bring to this partnership. Mine is concept, design, those types of things, a guest experience. I have one partner who is a numbers whiz, and he can squeeze blood out of a turnip, so to speak, and knows the finance aspect of all of this, food costs, labor costs, all those types of things. Accountant, and a really good. I give him grief because he's a really good bean counter.
Yeah.
And then we have another partner who is sort of a marketer and a talker and is out promoting the business everywhere he can, and he's a fantastic schmoozer.
Okay.
So
a genuine schmoozer, maybe.
Yes.
Yes.
And he's a big personality behind the business.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
Which is fun. And I always say, we're having a ball doing all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I just think it's super important that if you've got to have fun with the people you're working with, and you've got to have fun with the people you're investing with, because it's not always easy. And there are always bumps in the road, and there have been in this project, even in downtown Fargo. But we all get along well, and we all trust each other, and we all have a ball together. Awesome. And we all give each other enormous amounts of grief, which is awesome.
So this is your time to, air out any of that
you
need.
Dish the dirty laundry?
Was there any advice that you were given then, before these partnerships, or even just going out on your own?
Yeah. So, one, find people that you can trust. Yeah. But I always tell people, find financial partners that you can that believe in you and that you can believe in. We've got really strong banking relationships. We've got we've built business relationships that are long lasting and that will last. That they trust us and we trust them. But also surrounding yourself with people that are positive, people that that really share the same values, and I think that's super important. I mean, we're trying to do the right thing. I always tell people, in Fargo, for example, in the opening of this new business, we want to be really good neighbors. We want to be really good partners with the city of Fargo. We want to do the right thing for the city and for the businesses that are surrounding us. That is our values. And also, I never take myself too seriously because you can always be replaced. And if you think that you can't, then you're likely, the likelihood you're going to be replaced is far more significant.
Sure.
And have a good sense of humor. Because if it goes a heck of a long ways, so
it does. Laughter,
and not everybody gets my sense of humor, but I like to have fun when we're doing these things.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So earlier you mentioned that you aren't very risk adverse. You like risk.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest risk you've taken?
Yeah, I think one would say I think people would automatically assume running for office would be the biggest risk that I have taken, but I would say. It's almost the opposite. Leaving office would be, I left my term early. I took plenty of criticism for leaving early. I accept that criticism. It's on face value. But leaving a job that you are going to have and, probably would have had for a long time, and to leave that stability and then to jump into something that is completely on your own, completely self-reliant, is probably the biggest risk I've ever taken. And fortunately, God bless, it worked out. But obviously a very huge risk to potentially have 3 little kids at home,
Right.
not potentially having an income, by hanging up my own shingle and saying I'm opening up this consulting firm was a huge risk for me.
And your wife was also involved in
Yeah, my wife
politics
just
too.
finished
Yeah.
up 10 years of service in the
Okay.
state Senate. She is, I think, one of the best people I know, and she's was an awesome public servant, but she's also a really, really good teacher. She teaches high school English in Bismarck, and her students love her, and smart as a whip, and really also appreciates the value of public service.
Yeah. And, too, to have her on your side, too, of like believing in you, I'm sure, too.
Yeah, I mean, at certain points in time, she was raising 3 kids by herself because I was out, traveling for work or opening businesses or doing whatever. A lot of the responsibility fell on her, especially our youngest is special needs, and going through a time where not fully diagnosed and not figuring out exactly how to best chart a path for him.
Sure.
She was the biggest advocate for him. And it's one of the reasons our daughter chose special education and to be a special ed teacher was because she saw her mother and how she navigated a path for him to make it easier, to make it easier for him to learn and to function and to be part of a mainstream community.
Right, yeah.
So she is an advocate across the board for kids, which is super fun.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
That's great, too, that your daughter is,
she's now teaching. She's teaching elementary and special ed up in Grand Forks, kind of taking after her mother's footsteps as an advocate, but also teaching just little folks, and she loves it.
Oh, I mean, bless their heart to do that, too. You know?
I mean, those teachers out there, they're not making a ton of money.
Right, yeah.
And so it is an advocation an avocation of love,
Right. Yeah.
And so
it is like calling, basically.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it is. And I keep saying, Nicole, and that's my wife. We you could retire at some point in time soon, and and we could go to Arizona or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like, not a chance.
Really?
So,
yeah.
She goes, I'm here for several more years, so
That's awesome.
suck it up.
Yeah.
Which
You got to
is
stick
great.
out the cold winters.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. I understand.
We were
that.
born for this. We're made for
Exactly.
this, really. But
Yeah.
so how about failure? Have you experienced any failure
Yeah,
at all?
so I think in it's funny because I've thought about this some, and I thought about going to law school, and then I decided, that wasn't going to work out, so I was like, what do I do then, right? And I'd applied to a couple law schools, didn't get in, and so and when I was a college student, I had so much going on. I participated in everything.
Yeah,
right? So my grades weren't always the best, and obviously I graduated, and everything worked out
You were
great
the
that way. But
student body president too.
yeah,
that's,
I had a record of accomplishment. But I thought, okay, if I'm not going to get into the law schools that I wanted to get into, then I'm going to chart a different path. And so I always think, and I've had clients maybe where things didn't work out, and
Sure.
Or personality conflicts or whatever that might be. I see that as failures, but always learning experiences, right? And it forces you to reevaluate, first of all, yourself and how you're reacting to those things, and then to also forces you to chart a different path,
Sure.
and then take those risks that you may not have taken before.
Right.
And in that particular case, in like not going to law school and taking some graduate work instead, it forced me to reassess an entire path.
Right.
And fortunately for me, it worked. But self-reflection and self-evaluation because of failure is, I think, sometimes healthy.
Oh, very, yeah.
And gives you an opportunity to readjust.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So sometimes you wonder, like, did those certain things not turn out because this was the actual path, you know?
Actually, I think some of the failures that I had early on were, divine intervention.
Yeah, blessing in disguise, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Because it all worked out for me, and it didn't have to.
right.
And I could have, not charted a different path, but divine intervention and forcing me to take a relook is it's somebody's path,
Right. Yeah.
and somebody was helping me along.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. So, of your path and of all the roles you've had, have you had a favorite?
Well, I always say that being an elected official was it was so fun for me to be involved in the public policy process, the crafting of public policy. For me, being insurance commissioner, helping people that might have been wronged, really was one of my favorite things ever.
Sure. Yeah.
But that being said, I from an excitement standpoint, opening a new venture and creating what I think is an awesome guest experience and seeing people's reaction to it. This building in the redo of the Hotel Donaldson, which has all been redone, and of course then the restaurant, my fingerprints are all over that thing.
Yeah.
And to watch people's reaction when they walk in, and even folks that might have been critics at the very beginning were like, "Oh, you can't change, the Hotel Donaldson. You can't change the restaurant." And to walk in and say you've done it justice is one of the best things that I can best feedback and exciting for me. And that's the adrenaline that I sort of feed off of it.
Yeah. So was that interesting or to learn about like restaurants?
So I didn't have restaurant experience.
Yeah.
I've dined in great restaurants,
Sure.
but that was always as a customer.
Yeah.
Before we started, when we started the Blarney Stone, we hired and brought in as a partner somebody with restaurant experience, and so you learn from them and you understand. But what I do know is what I think people want and what people can appreciate in terms of a guest experience,
Right,
and creating that, and then hiring people that you trust to run those things is incredibly important.
Right, to actually execute out what your vision was.
We've had failures with employees and staff who haven't lived up to expectations and those types of things, but if you treat people right, then they're gonna work that much harder for you. And I truly believe that. We have a core group of management in all of our stores and at a corporate level that works their tail off.
Yeah.
And they know how much we appreciate them, and I think that is very important.
I think it always starts the top down,
It does.
So you guys are setting that example of expectations but appreciation and
Correct. Yeah, and it's made for a profitable business for them and a profitable business for us.
right. Yeah. And how about with the hotels too?
Yeah. So, obviously the Hotel Donaldson, a 17-room boutique hotel that we redid from top to bottom, kept all the wonderful art, by the way, and all the things.
Is there that shower or the bathtub?
In
is
fact,
that thing?
particular room is being finished today.
Is it really? Oh,
yes.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, with the same cool the tub that fills from the ceiling.
Yeah.
All of those things. But it's going to be a lot more beautiful because it's going to be all new. And everything is going to be refreshed.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did have some hotel experience because I'm a partner in a hotel in Bismarck. And so I knew, I knew some things about it, but not as a managing partner and not as, we're sort of
New
learning
challenge.
on the fly,
Yeah.
As well, which I think is super exciting.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Probably fun to kind of learn something new and
Correct.
well, especially to be a part of something, but really that your handprints are on it.
I just have a passion for giving people something that an experience, right? Even my family, like creating experiences for your family, for my mom and dad, my extended family, creating an experience for them that they may have not gotten for themselves is important to me.
Yeah. I'm way more about experiences than things. It's like I just want the experience. So that's where I go places for an experience. And that's like, the restaurant, like you hit it on the nail. Like they have to have this experience there too.
Correct. And if it's not a good one, they'll never come back.
Right.
And
Even if
so
the food is good, they might not come back still.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's been super fun for me, is having the ability to do that, and then creating something that you can energize other people to give them a good experience.
Yeah, love it. Yeah. So, what would be one piece of advice or encouragement if someone was looking to start their own business or just go after a new passion?
Well, first of all, don't be risk adverse. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to take risks, and you can't be afraid. So many people, I think, are focused on failure than they are on taking the risk itself and being energized off the risk. I totally understand that there are risk adverse people out there, and that's I understand it. I appreciate it, but I think taking risks is commensurate with the reward that you potentially can get. So taking a risk is okay. Learning from that risk, especially if there's failure, but also learning from your success. What made you successful? What made that risk work out for you? And then on the flip side, what didn't work? And if you can constantly not take yourself so seriously that you can't evaluate personally what your role in that was and what you added, what value add. I always talk about value add. What value did you add, and where you could have added better value is incredibly important. And so, if I'm giving you advice, don't take yourself so seriously that you can't do a full evaluation of yourself on what you have what you've added to a specific project.
Sure. Yeah, I like that that self-reflection. And
I think self-reflection is incredibly important, and not only in business, but family and your personal relationships, all of that. And I just had an interaction with my daughter this last week where I didn't probably do the right thing or say the right things, and was immediately doing self-reflection and what could I have done differently, and we had a much better conversation after I did it. And don't be afraid to apologize either.
Right. Yeah. Be the first to do it.
It makes you a better person if you admit what you've done wrong.
Right. Yeah.
So that's that. I mean, I do a lot of things wrong, but I'm certainly not. I'm certainly not opposed to admitting it and apologizing for it, and moving on. Yeah. Yeah. And again, having fun. I have a gregarious personality and like to have fun and like to give people grief and all of that. And if I tell people, if I'm not giving you grief, it doesn't mean I don't like you very much. If I give people that I love the most grief possible.
Sure. Right. So it's fun to. Yeah.
So having fun along the way is incredibly important. If you don't, then why do it?
Right. Yeah. Make the risk worth it.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to make it worth it, then you're likely not going to succeed doing it. So it makes all of that risk not worth it at all.
Mm-hmm. And you've got a lot of things going on still. So
and hopefully a lot of things ahead. We're always looking at new projects, new restaurants. I mean, my partners are already saying, where are we going next?
Where's next? Yeah.
And I'm like, let's just make sure this one's successful first before we plow ahead. But we like to be conservative, but we like to be we're not afraid to take risks as well.
Right. Yeah.
And so making sure
calculated risks, I guess.
Yeah. Calculated risks. I think that's a really good way to put it.
Right.
Is making sure that you're not just doing things to do them, but they're well thought through.
Wow, what a great episode. Thank you so much for joining me. It's always so inspiring sharing these stories. To listen to the full podcast, go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of your favorite podcast platforms. Remember to like and subscribe. I would love if you could leave me a 5-star review. This helps us reach and engage with more people. Join me next week, and until then, make the most of your new day.